The January 25th meeting, Intergovernmental Relations, will now come to order. I'd first like to welcome Legislator Barath to our committee. Welcome. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Antelli.
Here.
Mr. Barath. Here. Mr. Gamina. Here. Mr. Monroe. Here. Mrs. Valerio. Here.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
Is there anyone present who would like to address the committee? Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes. You have the January 4th minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes at the end of the day. Next item on the agenda, Mr. Clerk.
Referral 11-5.
Moved by Legislator Valerio, second by Legislator Camina. Any discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried.
Referral 11-6. Authorize intermunicipal agreements.
Moved by Mr. Gamina, second by Legislator Valerio. Any discussion? Legislator Barath.
Thank you. Through the chair, are these agreements, the amounts listed there, at the same levels as the past years, or there's a change?
Of the current contract show a 10% increase over last year.
Thank you. And through the chair, if I may,
Sir.
Over the year before last year, was there an additional 10% increase, or was it flat from the prior year before last year?
Compared to last year, it's a 10% increase across the board for each contract.
Okay. And last year, you do mean, through the chair, through 2009 through 2010, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
And through the chair, from the years 2008 through 2009, would it be flat from that year, or an additional 10? Did it go from 2008 through 2009 up 10%, 5%, or flat? What was the increase from the year prior to last year?
I would have to go back and look. Do you know?
Through the chair, Steve Bowman, Public Safety. I'm not sure of the exact percentage, but in 2008 to 2009, we tried to, through the chair, relate the usage of the lab services by county to the percentage of what they paid to the lab. And we should now be at the point where they are paying for their use of the lab services.
Thank you.
Any further? Legislator Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would also like to welcome my colleague here today. Through you, Mr. Chair, just wondering if there's a net on these payments to the county as opposed to the costs that we're incurring to perform these services.
Through the chair, I think it would be difficult to calculate exactly what the net would be, because we also, or the county gets a great advantage from being a regional laboratory in the grants that we apply for every year. So we actually get more grant funding because of the relationship that we have with these outside counties.
So through you, Mr. Chair, just overall, you'd call it a net positive, I guess, to at least characterize it that way?
Through the chair, I would.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried.
Referral 11-18. Authorize
Moved by
intermunicipal.
Legislator Valerio, second by Legislator Gamino. Any discussion? Yeah, Legislator Barath.
Through the chair, for each individual county agreement, it lists and includes a 2.5% annual increase per year for each county. I would like to know, over the years prior to 2010, has there been a common annual increase over past years? For example, 2009 through 2010, for the year before that, was it an increase of 2.5%? Is that a standard increase or not? Where did the 2.5% increase come from? How was that calculated? My apologies. Essentially, my question through the chair is, while there's a inclusion of a 2.5% increase over each year upcoming, going out for 3 years, so we're assuming a 2.5% increase each year. From the past years, what's the history? From 2009 through 2010, was there a 2.5% increase in costs? And the year before that, 2008 through 2009, again, approximately a 2.5% increase or not? Where's this 2.5% as an increase over per year coming from? How can we predict, heading out 1, 2, 3 years, what the increase will be year to year?
Chief Investigator with the Medical Examiner's Office. Through the Chair, basically the 2.5% increase is imposed through each year, 2008 to 2009, 2009 through 2010. It's difficult to predict exactly what cost increases will be. Underlying goal in all aspects, though, is to prevent there from being any burden placed on Monroe County taxpayers for the services we're applying to other counties.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Legislator Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to kind of piggyback on my colleague, through you, Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if there's a point where if the 2.5% might be above the CPI, thus being not in and of itself, but perhaps causing problems with TPA at some point? Or is that just unlikely?
Through the Chair, that'd be very difficult to establish.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you give me the average cost of each case that the ME charges approximately, or?
Through the Chair, again, what happens is a lot of this information is based on historical data. We contract with 9 counties. Each county has a different amount of need per se. Some counties are very, very self-reliant, perform most of the aspects of the investigation required. Other counties are much more needy and give us very little, requiring us to do a lot more. Based on this historical trend is where we establish the cost. In a lot of the cases as well, there's a cap on the number of case referrals a county can make. If a county was to send every case possible, obviously the cost per case is lowest. This isn't likely to happen. It hasn't happened in the past, and we're predicting it won't happen as we go into the future. So it's really hard for us to establish. I do have data available through the Chair if there's an interest in seeing how it works out over the past years.
Follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you, Mr. Chair, just kind of looking roughly at the data in front of me, just to try to get an idea here, looking at Wayne County versus Chemung County. Actually, no, Allegheny County was the one I was thinking of. It looks like, and based on the explanation you just gave, we're doing more for Wayne County in terms of each individual case than we're doing for Allegheny County. Is that a fair assessment?
Through the Chair, I would say that is in fact a fair assessment.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried. Is there any other matters to come before the committee? Being no further business, the January 25th meeting, Intergovernmental Relations, stands adjourned. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 15th.